Okay, this week we are talking about tank maintenance, and honestly, it is one of my favorite things. I know it sounds weird, but I want my tanks spotless and pretty. I want to sit back and enjoy them, and I can't do that if they're low on water or nasty. And the anxiety of knowing I haven't done my job and that my fish are not comfortable just drives me insane. I will stop what I'm doing and just do a water change because I just can't. When you decide to keep fish, you signed up for more chores as well. Fish are literally swimming in their own waste, so take care of them and keep them healthy. This means weekly water changes, maintaining filtration, and keeping an eye on your water parameters. If you're not willing to commit a couple hours a week to your fish tank, then take up a different hobby. Honestly, sometimes I do water changes a couple times a week, especially on my overstocked tanks, just to make sure they're happy and healthy, and again, because a dirty tank just bothers me. Water changes. Sometimes I use a smaller siphon and a large bucket to do water changes on my 55-gallon because it's better suction and it's easier to get around tank decorations without disturbing them too much. So for today, I'm actually just going to use an Amazon Python knockoff special. This siphon makes it so much easier to drain and refill the aquarium without carrying around heavy buckets of water. I tend to make less of a mess as well, but for my 10-gallon, that would be overkill, so I still use a small siphon and a bucket, but that's usually just one trip each way. You're going to want to make sure that you turn your heater and filter off before you begin. That way you don't burn up your motor and you don't accidentally blow up your heater. I have those and my air pump plugged into a power strip that I just flip off and that's done. I have my lighting plugged in separately just because I like it to be left on. I feel like it's easier to see and what I'm doing, so I just leave it on. About every other water change or so, I'll move my large rocks and driftwood around so that I can really clean under everything where waste tends to collect. But sometimes I try to just clean around it really well so that I don't mess up my aquascaping too much. I really have it how I like it. I usually do a 50 to 75% water change on all of my tanks. There is very little, so we're just going to say no beneficial bacteria in the water column. So you don't have to worry about removing too much water. I was fighting water parameters in a tank and doing 25% water changes to try to correct the ammonia or something like that. And I could not understand why when I rechecked everything, it hadn't changed like at all. I was shown this graphic by someone in a Facebook group, and I really like how it shows that small water changes don't really do anything to improve water quality. They add a dye to this tank, then did each water change as depicted, and it isn't until the 75% water change that you see an improvement in the water clarity. So since we want to clean our water and prevent water parameters going crazy, I do large weekly water changes. Now, if I'm doing extra water changes throughout the week just to clean up, I only do like 25% or less, just however much it takes to clean up the substrate. While I've got the water level lowered, I take a scrubby sponge that I only use on my aquariums to go around the inside of the glass and scrub off any algae or scum from water evaporation that builds up around the rim. There is beneficial bacteria that grows on the glass, but you won't be killing or removing enough to harm anything. You'll mostly be knocking it off into the water where it could settle in the substrate or on another surface. So again, cleaning your glass should not be a concern. I then refill my tanks using water conditioner. You can use cheap water conditioner and it'll be just fine, but I really like to use Stress Coat because it not only conditions the water of any chlorine that the city uses in your water source, but it also has aloe to help with fish stress levels when cleaning the tank, adding fish or other stressors. Since we have had so much rain this year, most cities add even more chemical to the water, so I've been double dosing water conditioners. At home or on well water, which is a whole nother set of problems. Well water parameters change from day to day. I was actually buying reverse osmosis water from a shop here in town in 5-gallon jugs to do water changes. It was a huge pain in the butt, and it would be impossible to go this route with 5, 10, 15, and 125-gallon tanks, all needing 50 to 75% water changes a week. So we will be putting a good water filtration system in the new house. Our old house was just straight well to faucet, and it killed a number of fish before I realized our well water stays relatively high in nitrates. Keep in mind that you never want to pull your decorations out and scrub them clean. You'll be killing off all the beneficial bacteria that grow on those surfaces and end up crashing your water cycle. And I have made this mistake myself, and it's cost me fish. Don't change your filter media and do a water change at the same time. You'll be removing too much beneficial bacteria all at once. I honestly almost never change my filter cartridges or canister media. On the 10-gallon, I will take the filter cartridge and rinse it out in a bucket of tank water, not sink water, then replace it. The beneficial bacteria in your aquarium will do more for your water parameters than carbon or other filter additives could ever do. So there actually isn't even any carbon in the 10-gallon filter. I just have a small sponge stuffed down in behind empty filter cartridge bag. Sponges offer a ton of surface area for bacteria to grow. I have a sponge filter running in the 5-gallon grow out tank right now that I'm probably gonna replace the internal filter with anyways, but I haven't totally decided yet. It would just be less bulky in this tank. I am running a Polar Aurora 265-gallon per hour canister filter on my 55-gallon. This is the Amazon cheap, but so far really great version of a Sun canister filter. Actually, it's manufactured by Sun. It's just their off-brand brand. Some might say that a canister on a 55 is overkill, but because this is an overstocked cichlid tank, they were just not enough filter media surface area in the hang-on back that was on this. However, when I did switch over to the canister filter, I set it up and got it running. I left the hang-on back running as well for 2 weeks to let the canister get established. Had I just jerked the hang-on back right off, I would have taken all of the beneficial bacteria with it and crashed my tank. I know this because when I upgraded the hang-on back from a 55-gallon to a 90-gallon, I did that and killed fish. So still paranoid. I did take the old cartridges out of the hang-on back after the 2 weeks and still stuffed them in the canister, but I did go ahead and throw those out today. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was terrified to step off into canister land. I swore I would never run anything but a hang-on back because they're so simple, but now I'm really glad I did. I like the much cleaner look in my tank. It does still have the intake, of course, but I don't have a big box with the intake taking up a large visual space in my tank. And what I love most is that the media is easily shared. So here's what I mean, I'll show you. I have this thing cram-packed with media right now because I know that I'm gonna be setting up a Fluval FX4 canister filter on the 125 once our house is finished. And y'all know how excited and impatient I am to be setting that up and getting my baby Oscars. I want to be able to instant cycle that tank and be ready to go. I will be able to rob some of this lava rock and extra sponges that I have stuffed in here, pop them in the FX4, and bam, instant cycled aquarium ready for fish. Also, when I found a surprise in my Mbuna tank, I was able to stop off at the pet store on my way home, grab the 5-gallon, and I already had a filter media to steal and instant cycle that tank. So it's really nice to have all that filter media established and easily removed for emergencies like that or a hospital tank. Whenever you might need it, you can rob a little filter media without robbing too much, which is really nice. Like if all I still had was that hang-on back It just had 2 cartridges. So if I took any media at all, it would be 50%. And that would be a lot to remove. So anyways, I just really like how many options this canister has given me, and it really has worked wonders on this tank. I will go over all of the filtration that I have planned for the 125 once I get it set up. I'll be doing a video over everything going on in that tank and setting it up and getting fish. So really go ahead and like, subscribe, click the little notification bell so that you won't miss any of that. Back to the point, maintaining the canister is pretty easy. It's a little messy, but not too bad. I siphon a little tank water into the bucket and just pop this loose, which shuts off the hoses. Very important, I flooded the floor the first time I took this apart, not thinking that even with the power shut off, it will still gravity flow all of your tank into the floor. So yeah. Then I remove the media trays and set them in the bucket. You want to keep the media wet so that your beneficial bacteria doesn't die. Then I take and dump all of this nastiness out of the bottom of the canister and rinse it out really well. Rinse or squeeze any of the sponges in the trays that might need it. Replace the sponge if it needs it, but don't replace them all at once. Reinstall the media trays, reassemble everything. Push this button to prime it. I just like to get all the air out and turn it back on when you're ready. With the sponge filters, just remove them from your tank as gently as possible. Squeeze the sponge out in a bucket of tank water like before, and ta-da, you're done. You might need to replace the sponge every once in a blue moon, but remember to cycle the new sponge before just yanking the old one. You can set the new sponge on the substrate, push it up against the side of the old one for a week or so, or replace the filter with the new sponge and leave the old one lying on the substrate for a bit. Whatever you decide, again, just don't remove all your beneficial bacteria and crash your tank. You also never want to use harsh chemicals or cleaners on anything going in your aquarium. It can be really difficult to get those residues completely off, and you'll end up putting that back in your aquarium and killing fish. The last thing I do after I get everything put back together and started is I use Fritz glass and acrylic cleaner, and because it's aquarium safe, if you use Windex and you get any kind of overspray in your aquarium, you're gonna kill fish. I also know that you can use a mixture of about half and half or so vinegar and water. That's fine too. That's not gonna be harmful if it happens to get in your tank. But I just found this at the fish store and I grabbed it. But again, this is a showpiece for me. I want it to look nice. I want to sit and enjoy it, and so I want the glass smudge free. Checking water parameters. I use an API master test kit. You can buy some cheaper test strips that are much easier to use, but they just don't seem to be as accurate, and they aren't actually any cheaper per test, just at the time. You'll get way cheaper per test and more accurate results using the API test kit. I usually only do this every few weeks after a water change, or if I notice any of my fish acting different, i.e. lethargic, hanging out at the top, things like that. The instruction booklet that comes with this is very easy to follow. A life hack, I use a syringe, an unused syringe, to fill the test tubes. If you try to hit the 5 ml line by filling the test tube in the tank, you'll be there a while and be so frustrated. Tank maintenance is so important to the health of your fish and avoiding things like disease and illnesses, keeping the water parameters accurate, keeping your tank clean, keeping that temperature up. all of these things. But I honestly love it. Just again, I love keeping my fish and my plants because it's just fun to nurture and take care of things and know how frail life can be. So maintenance is just really important, and I like doing it. So don't be lazy. Do your water changes, do your tank maintenance. Keep it up so it's something you can be proud of, that you can sit back and enjoy, that guests in your home can enjoy, and it doesn't just look like this nasty unkept thing with sick fish that are dying off on you all the time. Thank you guys so much. Comment video ideas below. Let me know if you have any questions that I can address in a video or questions that I can address in the comment section. I will link my social media below because that's a good way to keep up and get insights on a daily basis. A lot of times in my Instagram story, if I'm doing something on a tank, I'll go ahead and just document it there. And yeah, so like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and you will get notified as soon as we upload next week's video. Thank you guys. Bye.